It's cool having you on. Thanks for coming on.
Great to be here.
Yeah, we were just talking about celebrities and how your neighbors with
hold on.
Ryan Gosling.
You
Well, I know.
you can't
I want to talk about my
world.
celebrities sighting the other day.
Okay.
Because this is true, Craig, and then we'll get into real estate talk in a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's your celebrity sighting?
So we already know that about this. So I'm trying out this new salon, getting a haircut, and I'm waiting to sit down in the chair for the guy to do his thing, and the guy who was before me in the chair stands up and he goes, "Hey, I'm sorry for holding you up," which he wasn't. And I was like, "We're right on time." And I said, "Oh, it's good. And then I look up and he's still standing there. Alec Baldwin. I'm not making that up. So anyways, the Alec Baldwin gets
I don't know why it's like so funny to
same
hear.
haircut guy as me, same stylist as me. He looks better, but
I've seen Billy Baldwin.
oh, that
I
counts.
saw Billy Baldwin at a Starbucks, and he had to go to the bathroom very badly.
That's a better one than mine.
I feel like you had the opportunity to do the funniest thing that you could and be like, "Hey man, big fan. Can I just quickly? Can I get an autograph?"
So it's
really
funny
fast?"
with Alec. I wanted to say something, but then there's all these videos and stuff from beforehand of him kind of being an asshole.
aggressive, yeah.
So, but he was super nice. I mean, he was just so apologetic for running late.
What if you were like, "Yeah, man, I have things to do today."
yeah, time's ticking. Yeah.
That said, Craig, thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
It's nice to have you here. Been scheduling this for a while, so excited. So, a lot of people in New York, especially, are familiar with you. We have a big New York audience, way bigger than Dallas.
Of course.
Come on, man. Our audience is national, if not international.
Yes,
Very
global,
international audience.
global,
Yes.
massive Antarctica fans. Why don't you tell the listeners what it is you do, what Marx Realty is?
Sure. So what we do, we've been recognized as being the first to really marry hospitality and office. So our buildings look and feel like hotels, even though they're office buildings. And what that means is that if you approach our building, there'll be a doorman outside. He's in uniform. There are oversized wood doors. You go inside. There's music playing. There's a signature scent. There's, all your senses are really impacted. And as opposed to most office buildings that we go to being all white marble or gray marble and fluorescent lights and really kind of hostile with security guards, ours don't have that.
But you have security.
We have security, but they're doormans and concierges and they're Bluetooth and it's more of a seamless system and they smile.
Yeah.
They're not airport security guards.
Right.
And so really what our philosophy is, people should love coming to work and if they do that, then tenants will come more because their employees will stay longer, and that's what happens. They come in earlier and they stay later, and they're more productive and inspired at work. And you're at work more than you're at home, so you should love being there. And it's not just the way the building feels and looks. We also have tons of amenities that are available for our tenants. So we do have podcast studios.
Yeah, you were mentioning that.
And movie theaters and town halls and outdoor space and cafes. We're doing a speakeasy, which will be really cool. They're actually down here as well.
Cool.
So,
Nice.
Stuff like that makes people enjoy coming to the office.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the office and commercial management space?
I've been doing office since 2001, but actually even before that. So I started my career as a lawyer at Skadden, and I was in real estate before that.
See, Jack? There's others of you
I
out
was
there.
a lawyer as well,
Uh-huh.
and I hated it. It sounds like you weren't the biggest fan yourself either.
You know what? I thought it was a great background. I never wanted to be a lawyer forever.
Yeah.
I was there for 5 years, which is equivalent to like 20.
Yeah, Skadden for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a much more politically correct response than I have about being a lawyer.
So
but
you went to UT Austin, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, my daughter goes there.
Oh, cool. Currently, right now?
Yeah, right now.
Wow.
She loves it.
Yeah, it's a great place.
It's awesome.
It's such a great place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started out as an attorney, you
Yeah.
left, and then what was your first opportunity?
So I went in-house for a private developer, and then
As counsel.
as general counsel, and slash business, trying to do more business.
Right.
And then they and I quickly realized that I had an aptitude for repositioning office buildings. So that's kind of what I'm really...
How does that happen when, and this might be digressing a bit, but a lot of lawyers do try to get out of law, myself included.
Right.
And they try to find a way where they can go in-house as a general counsel and then get some sort of business responsibilities and then transition into business roles from legal roles. How were you able to do that?
So at that company, we had some assets in Boston. At the time, they were terrible. They were just not performing well. So no one wanted to work on it. And they said, hey, you new guy, why don't you, take over these properties?
So you got thrown into it.
That's his reward for wanting to move out of being counsel.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to occupy your time?
And then those were successful. And then they kind of
cool
from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
To the extent you recall, like, what were some of the early things you did to reposition those properties?
So I always thought of office differently, actually. So even back then, and back then we called it boutique office. So we wanted to make it feel, we didn't call it hospitality, but that was kind of the nature of it. We didn't want it to feel as sterile as some of these other office buildings. So we just introduced materials that were very different than you were seeing. These buildings were in the back bay. So a lot of the private equity groups really kind of like that. And then, through my career, I've worked on really every asset class. So office, hotel, retail, residential. So they all kind of converge, and you learn something when you work on all of those different asset classes.
Yeah.
Got an investor portal? Great. But if you're still tracking payments outside the system, manually reconciling your waterfalls, or keeping your fingers crossed that your platform provider delivers your distributions on time, you're not getting what you need. InvestNext is purpose-built to handle today's capital raises, digital subscriptions, intuitive deal rooms, complex distributions, and direct ACH payments. While you focus on investors, InvestNext handles the back end with less friction and more firepower. Don't let outdated tools hold back your next raise. Upgrade your stack at investnext.com/nocap.
Well, let's jump into this a little bit, because you do have this kind of unique experience. So one very successful office building I think you guys have is what's now 10 Grand Central. So can you give us the history of that? And I want to understand this deal a little bit more.
Sure.
Yeah.
So 10 Grand Central, before it was 10 Grand Central, was 708 3rd. And it was the worst building on 3rd Avenue. And I joined the company 8 years ago, and we had this real problem asset, even before COVID and all that. And
so it was a legacy asset.
It's a legacy asset.
Got it.
And we really didn't know what to do with it. And we were funneling about $20 million a year into this asset.
Wow.
It was
that you're just feeding?
Just feeding. And it was just really sort of, and our rents, when I got there, they were doing deals at $33 a square foot, $40 a square foot. Those rents are not sustainable.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, is this right by Grand Central?
Yes.
Okay, so this is like prime time real estate in New York City.
Yes. But the building was old. It was from the 1930s, and it had this reputation of being just a neglected asset. We had a third-party manager, and so what we did immediately was bring all of that in-house and came up with a plan to really reformulate this asset. So we changed the entrance from 3rd Avenue to 44th Street, which is where Grand Central is. So it's more connected to Grand Central. We rebranded the name of it to 10 Grand Central. We really turned our back literally to 3rd Avenue. So even on our floor plans, it doesn't say 3rd Avenue, it says East River, that kind of stuff.
Well, Grand Central, to me, is the most beautiful building in the city.
It's also the most important connection hub to New York.
And
it's played to it.
And it's become so much more even now.
Right.
During the COVID times, what happened was a lot of folks moved out to the suburbs, and they want that one train stop.
That's a good point.
And now Long Island Railroad goes there. So it's really, everyone's there, and they want to be there more than ever. But we did this well before that. And then what we did was we immediately looked at the lobby and came up with a solution to make it feel more warm and inviting and embrace hospitality. And then we also did a lounge floor, which we call our club floor, that has a really large terrace, and which is the Ivy Terrace. And then we have a giant boardroom and then a bar. And we did that, and we built a pre-built that felt very elevated. And we did that, and almost immediately, our rents jumped $30 a square foot. And then as we kind of evolved, then our rents went up $50 a square foot.
And you weren't doing these types of renovations on other properties yet?
This
you
was
had?
this was the first one that we
Okay.
did, and then we kept growing it. So then we had a house card just as really embracing all this hospitality, and what that is tenants through our app can say, I want to go down the Lower East Side at this time, and anyone can do it. It's very democratic. I know you guys like democratization.
Yeah,
and so
I love that buzzword.
yeah, but it really is. I mean, there used to be buildings where just the C-suite would have access to some of these amenities. This is for everybody.
How does that work? Does it cost money to reserve that car, or is it included in your?
Everything's included.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, there's no excess. So we also have complimentary gelato, complimentary.
Wait, that's
Whoa.
really badass. That's so cool to have that car at your disposal.
Yeah, it's a Porsche Taycan. There's a
It's
driver.
like staying at the one hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
And each building we have, because each building has a different brand, we have a different house car that kind of meets that brand, and the color of it meets the brand.
Wow,
all that
Super
kind of
interesting.
stuff.
Very cool. And I imagine that gets used a lot.
Gets used all the time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, we have it in DC as well. And it's interesting in New York and DC how people use it different hours.
Interesting.
So DC starts much earlier. We used to start in New York at 8 a.m. Like no one was using it.
No, that's
Really?
not cool.
Yeah,
We've
they
adopted
started at
LA
11.
culture.
Yeah,
We don't-
they use
we
it
don't
much
do that.
later, so
Yeah.
that's cool
Yeah.
too. So just understanding that, and then the amenities get so much use. I know so many people think you just have these amenities.
I
and they
always
just
feel
check the
that way.
box.
Yeah.
It's
Right,
not
like
true.
to an extent, there's a lot of buildings that do build out these amenity centers, and
Right.
it's just they're collecting
It looks
dust.
cool,
Yeah.
and it makes
Yeah.
you want to. You think you're going to use it, and then you don't
I
use
think
it.
I think a handful of them, maybe they get used for lunch when you don't want to sit at your desk. But then
It gets used all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
All the time. So much that when we have had tours, sometimes people thought we were staging it. There's like,
Like
no
you had
way.
actors?
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
actors, yeah. And they
That's
came back at a random time.
That's
So, and that's kind of what you want. And we make sure that they use it. Like we kind of think like, we're not just doing it just
Yeah.
to do it.
Right.
And I think so many groups just check the box and really.
Yeah, so you can show your
Yeah.
amenities on paper.
And also, those amenities for so many of these groups look like it's an airport lounge or
Totally.
something
Yeah.
that's in Ohio.
you used a good word before, which was sterile.
Right.
Right. It
What's
is-
wrong
it's
with
very
Ohio?
sterile.
No, Ohio's
I'm
wonderful.
joking.
Yeah.
If you're in Ohio, but if you're in New York, it should have a New York style.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and in our building, since 10 Grand Central, since it was built in the 1930s, everything in the building really speaks to that time period.
Maintains the character.
Yes,
Yeah.
and not in a Disney World way, but in a modern version of that. So
Yeah,
you
that's
can see
important
it.
because there's a
Yeah.
fine line where things can get a little too shticky and
Right.
cheesy.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you take a building like 10 Grand Central, how did you guys think about the programming? Like, how did you know which amenities to do? I mean, it's very easy to come in and I can go, well, we got a vacant floor, let's do a basketball court, but that's not necessarily in the
Right.
best interest of the building. So what was the audience you were trying to capture? What were you guys thinking at the time?
Yeah, so we did a very oversized boardroom because really people can't have that in their offices, or it's.
What are the floor
inefficient.
plates roughly? Or
On the
or
base
scale?
floors, they're about 25,000, and then the building wedding cakes, and then it goes to 5,000.
Got it.
The building actually has more terraces than floors, so there's 44 terraces, 36 floors, and then none of those terraces were previously activated. Now they're all activated.
What were they before?
Nothing. So maybe some mechanical there, or just
Wow.
some like weeds.
Okay.
So we activated all of those, and you do get a premium of about $5 to $10 a square
I
foot.
totally get it.
just
Now,
by
when you
doing that.
activate those terraces,
Uh-huh.
is there a lot of regulation to make that, kosher to allow people to go out there and enjoy it? I imagine. Maybe not.
There is, yeah. So you have to have, ramp access for ADA
Okay.
access, and then also for, even though there's hardly any kids in the building, but you do have to have the railings that are a certain height. And
I always wondered why more people don't do that and take advantage of that.
well,
so maybe,
sometimes structurally the building can't support it. So, like on our amenity floors, we actually have to structurally support it even more, just because you'll get about 200 people.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that you don't
Sure.
have an incident there.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. But those worked immediately, and then our rents went up about $40 a square foot, really throughout. And then we got so much use from those amenities that we added a second amenity floor just recently,
Wow.
actually, which we call the meeting galleries. It's another 10,000 square feet of space. And then that has a giant town hall, which I would say is the number one amenities that today's tenants want. And that seats about 200 people. And then we have a podcast studio there and screening gallery, and that's where we're doing the speakeasy as well. But all of this, though, has to feel consistent with the building, which for like a giant town hall is a really challenging aspect, because if you think about all the chairs have to be stackable,
Right.
they all look like the Westin Hotel, and we didn't want that to happen. So
Right.
so all of those chairs are custom, and the ceiling is has fabric. That's
There's
like,
a lot of
pretty
money
brutal.
that goes into
It's
this.
a lot of money, yeah.
Yeah.
But it definitely works, and you see it pretty immediately. And we also get income from renting out the space too,
Right.
which surprised us. So when we first did our first floor of Amenity, we just were doing it for the building, and we didn't think we would get a nickel. So people were like, "You rent it out?" We're like, "Sure," and we didn't even know the price.
Well, tell us what does other income look like in office buildings?
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know, and I think a lot of people listening might be curious if they're in operations in different asset types. What type of other income is standard in this niche?
I mean, well, other income could be really broad. I mean, it
Yeah.
could be just garbage removal, light changes, that
Okay.
kind of stuff.
Okay.
But for these amenity spaces, it's really you rent out a conference room, you pay this per hour,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a party. Lots of our tenants have parties all the time. We actually open it up for outside groups as well for functions. We've had weddings,
Got it.
that kind of stuff. So it adds up to about routinely it's about $500,000 a year.
Okay.
in revenue for those
That's
spaces.
significant.
Yeah.
And that was for one of the floors. And the second floor, we think will probably be double or quadruple
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And so when you go in and you amenitize a
Mm-hmm.
property like this and add the more upscale service component to it, what type of premium, looking back, were you able to get from then to now? Like what is the premium and
rent you're talking
rents?
about.
correct?
Yeah,
you
so
said, yeah.
it's about $50 a square
Okay.
foot.
All
yeah.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit more for the higher floors,
Mhm.
and then on average it's that
Okay.
range. So and what's also wonderful is we're now 93% with our leases out. Will be 95%, and New York is on fire. Midtown
Yeah.
in particular. So we have 11 tenants in that one building who are looking to expand.
Wow. Okay. What's up with that? Because a lot of people, when we talk about office, I still have people tell me, "Oh, it's dead."
Yeah.
But bullshit, it's not dead. In
No.
the right pockets
Right.
for the
But
right
that's
product.
that's the caveat, right? I
Right.
think it's still, when you look nationally and when
Mhm.
you look at what's in office, suburban office parks,
Right.
those massive corporate campuses, it's easy to proclaim that it's dead when
Yeah.
for the large part it kind of is, but it's so bifurcated.
Right.
There's so much delineation, even in New York, and like Craig,
For
you've
sure.
been here your whole life, you've seen it. There's a very big difference between where 10 grand is and 40 wall. Like
Right.
it's
Yeah, and frankly, I think not to pick on 40 Wall, but the
Yeah.
financial district is, I wouldn't invest there.
What happens? What's going to happen there?
It will become multifamily.
Yeah.
Or a hotel or something along those lines,
Right.
and that's what it should be. And I think that's fine. What's interesting though on Third Avenue though, which is where we used to be seated, those buildings are not doing well, and there have been groups. I think you've met with one of them. Who's invested $20 million in that lobby and had to turn it back to the lender
Ugh.
and for sale.
Yeah.
And that's being converted to residential. And
Yeah.
so it's not just about like your location. It's actually about having these types of experience,
Mhm.
hospitality experience that's done right, that really resonates with the tenants. And what happens today is tenants will bring in their entire crew. It used to be it was the CEO, CFO, maybe HR. Now it's like 20 people coming and they're taking photos and and they're embracing it, and that's really what you want to happen. And when that happens, there's no question that they're going to lease there, and they don't really care anymore about what they pay in rent. Every time we do a deal, we're like, we should have charged more, and we've raised rents 3 times this year in that one building.
Wow.
And it's not just that building. We're talking a lot about 10 Grand
Yeah.
Central, but we have other buildings where it's been the same exact success
I want to
story.
talk about those too, because
Sure.
you have some interesting things going on in your portfolio. But you brought up another point. It's like, I'm thinking we're in 2025, almost in 26.
Mhm.
You look at someone's lease. The average lease was 10 years,
Right.
right? So look at what spaces were in 2015 or 2014.
Right.
Like, I would be super excited. You're in a completely different world going in to build out a new space. And I agree. I think a lot of people don't care what they're spending anymore. Maybe they're spending the same, although the per square foot is higher, but they're getting a car and a bar and the conference center. So it makes a huge difference. Somebody who's obviously
attracting talent, and if they can get that talent to come to the office 4 to 5 days a week, and the talent's choosing them over some other company because they go to the space and it looks really awesome, and they want to be there.
Without getting political, I think if companies don't run out of New York in the next few years, there's going to be a really big renaissance of like how we collaborate with people. I think we've gotten super accustomed to Zoom culture and whatever else.
Well, I think that's why those town halls are the number one amenity right now. I think people want to be together. Companies want their employees to be together. We in New York, we have so many companies that have offices in 12 different countries, and and they'll have we have TVs everywhere so that they can all have this kind of town hall Zoom. And that's in real demand because people want to collaborate and feel together.
Your LPs expect more now. Instant access, integrated funding, seamless distributions, and polished experience every time they log in. If your portal hasn't kept up, you're already behind. InvestNext helps you deliver an investor experience that keeps you one step ahead of your investors' expectations and reinforces your brand at every step. Because staying ahead means raising the bar. Upgrade your investment management platform and elevate your investors' experience at investnext.com/nocap. It's funny. I was curious if people still did town halls. I worked for a company in DC in 2017 and 2018. We had town halls like quarterly for sure. Maybe even more often.
They don't always call it that. They might call it get-togethers or whatever the case may be.
I don't follow. It's just like getting together and someone answers questions.
Well, think about working for a massive company, right? How often do you get to hear from your CEO if it's not a PR newsletter,
right?
So like your CEO or some executives come up. I mean, we used to have like our CEO and like our heads of development or whatever stand on the stairs and talk to us,
right?
Yeah, but it's a big. I think it's a big difference because like otherwise you're just disconnected and you might as well be on Zoom, right? So
why be in the office?
Why be in the office at all? All right, so let's get into some of the other. What else is exciting in your portfolio in New York?
So we have 545 Madison. So that's an interesting one as well. So we own the fee there. So it's also was legacy, but we didn't have the leasehold, and your viewers might not know what that is.
Why don't you explain? Because I think a lot of folks don't understand New York.
So in New York, you could actually own the land, and then you lease the actual building. And that's what we did. It was an amazing leasehold, but then the group that was there just couldn't make it work.
And most buildings that you see in New York City are leasehold interests, right? Or would you not say that much?
Most.
No. I just feel like in the news or when
those
I
are
read
the ones
it,
that are having trouble.
Got it.
Because the leasehold structures that were out there weren't good structures.
Okay.
They just didn't make economic sense. They would grow too much, and the rents didn't follow.
Got it.
So in that building, when we took it over, the rents were the high was in the 70s. And we, which sounds like a good rent, but it should be much more than that. And today is. We took it over 3 months before COVID. And it was actually a really easy eviction process. So the New York City was really good about that.
When you say the eviction, this is of the leasehold owners.
Yes.
Got it.
And so we took the property back, and then it looked like every other building on Madison Avenue. So if you walk up and down Madison Avenue, they actually all use the same architect, same stone.
That's right. That was is it an Emery Roth building or?
It was reskinned.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yes. But until then, it was So like Emery Roth and Sons.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, his sons somehow got all of the business.
Yeah. Good for his sons.
My history isn't that strong, but I do know that they've done every building in Midtown.
Yes. So it looked like that. There was really nothing special or distinctive about it. And that's what today's tenants want, special and distinctive. So what we did was we just did the opposite. It was almost a George Costanza of office buildings. So everything was sort of angular.
By the way, I love that episode. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Opposite day, and it just all works for him.
No, it was that he finally gave up on being single and whatever. He goes, I'm going to do the opposite of all my instincts, and his life took off.
So it gets a job again. So that's what that building is in a way. So in that building, everything is rounded. We don't have, we do have stone on the desk, but it's a very special desk, but everything else is warm walnut woods, All of our furniture is rounded. We entered into a partnership with Baccarat, the crystal maker. And so it's actually the first co-branded office building in the country with a luxury brand. And so what that means is in the lobby, we have these beautiful chandeliers worth millions of dollars that were actually curated just for 545 Madison.
Wow.
And then we have in our bar, we have Baccarat barware, which is in our lounge. And then we even changed our signature scent to their signature scent. And it worked immediately. So
I think that's so cool.
You brought literal like wealth, the
What
presence of
cachet
wealth
you
bring,
bring.
Exactly.
to the building.
Tell us, and I don't know what you can share about this, but what does that relationship look like? Like, who approached who, and what are some of those terms? I mean, how does that look?
You know, so Baccarat is a brand that's, they have Baccarat residences and Baccarat hotels, and they have Baccarat bars, and they're trying to really make Baccarat part of everyone's lives. So they actually took to it really immediately.
And did you guys approach them?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, and actually, whenever a tenant moves in that building, and actually all of our buildings, we give Baccarat barware to the tenants as a welcome guest.
Wow.
I like that.
And we also have Baccarat barware in all of our bars, and all of our buildings have bars as well.
I got to check our lease agreement because we might have to move into Craig's building.
Well, it was funny. We spent a lot of time with them. What happens if the tenants steal? The Baccarat, glasses and tumblers, and ultimately we're responsible for it, and we have cameras, so we would know. But we haven't had a single glass be stolen. What happens is, in the way we look at these buildings, we talk hospitality, but it's really almost like a club. And if you're part of a club, you're not stealing anything. You're treating it properly, and you're treating all the tenants.
You have pride in it.
You do, and it really makes a difference. So
this kind of reminds me of Miami and every single new building.
You thought of exactly where I'm getting at. There's no such thing as a residence in Miami that's not branded.
Right.
It's a little out of
Aston
control.
Martin, Mercedes. Whoever else, Ferrari, whatever.
Like
they do. That's
Baccarat,
right.
Baccarat Hotel in New York is gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I think it's probably the nicest hotel.
Right.
I wish they kept the bar open like they had it when it just opened. Now you got to sit down. It's a whole thing. But yeah, I'm surprised that it hasn't been more adopted in the office space.
Same.
And when we first told people we were doing this, I think they kind of thought it was a little hokey, to be honest. They were like, yeah. And, but it really works. We found actually our first tenant since we did it actually lived in the Baccarat residences. He walked in, smelled the scent, and said, "Is that Baccarat?" and so we joked we had him at the first.
Well, that's a cool feeling. Yeah.
And it makes a
he
difference.
must be a Baccarat fan.
Well, there is something really pleasant about that too, right? Like I mentioned the one hotel before. You go into one hotel anywhere in the world, it's instantly recognizable. And that's, I know Barry was like really big on brand, and
scent really brings back memories in such a way.
The most of anything else.
And scent's been a thing in office buildings in New York for a long time, or I say a long time relative to my.
The scent was usually in office buildings if there was a poor scent and you were trying to overcome that poor scent.
That's right. It's like BO, but you kind of smell the BO still.
If there was a Subway next door and they were venting the bread into the street.
It's been interesting because folks have asked us, even from Miami, they've asked us about our house car, how that works, and they want to use it there for office buildings. And we think that's great. I think the office market has evolved incredibly. When we first started doing this, we actually had to fire our brokerage team.
They weren't getting it.
They were not getting it. Yeah. They weren't selling it properly. They thought it was, but you could rent this for $40, and that's what this building is. They didn't understand, the power of the building brand and the power of hospitality. And tenants just love it. I mean, as they should. Who wouldn't love it? And they bring their mothers, they bring their friends, they stay late for drinks, and it's all kind of ad hoc, and it's terrific.
Now, are there partnerships with the hotel? Do tenants get a deal at the Baccarat hotel, or
they get a discount at the Baccarat retail?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
there's something there,
and then they have specials for Mother's Day. And stuff like that.
I love that the scent. Do you know hotel scents, by the way?
Yeah,
you guys. I want to do a plug for them and get them to sponsor us.
Oh.
You think they'll sponsor us?
I don't know. We'll see.
Anyways,
When
but
we brand this little.
it's just seriously. I was just in their store the other day and smelled a scent. And I was like, holy crap! This is Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And it was like the Bellagio or Wynn scent, and it really does bring you back.
So I want to ask. Right now, like we spoke about 545, we spoke about 10 grand. Both those buildings, you've created a very strong identity, and it's no question that if you go in them, like you feel like you're in a hotel. Right. Is there something at the Marx level or whatever you're calling these buildings now? Like, are you trying to unite these buildings in brand? Like,
so we think of each building as their own brand.
Okay.
However, the Marx brand is part of that. So sort of like Marriott is a master brand, and then there's the St. Regis and the W, whatever the case may be, one. So we think of it that way. But the way it really works is the brokerage community will understand this is a Marx property. It's going to have these features.
Got it.
And they get comfortable with it that way. Originally, we were thinking of doing the Marx brand as a brand, but really, the building has to speak for itself. So you can't just take what's at 545 and apply it to some other building.
And they're so different.
So different.
Each neighborhood has its own feeling.
Totally. So 545, because it's on Madison Avenue, it has a lot of retail elements, actually. So our doors are rounded and have the poles that you would see at like a luxury retailer, that type of thing. And Baccarat ties in with that too.
Yeah.
So you would not be looking at FIDI. And I mean, it's just interesting. I don't know. I'm trying to think of things that like a lot of our listeners maybe might not understand, but just the wave and transition from the financial district or FIDI, in case you didn't know what that stands for, to Midtown. It's like night and day from where it was. When did the transition really start happening there?
It happened a long time ago, honestly. And then it just sort of escalated over time.
It's just crazy. And it's kind of a ghost town a little bit. In some
and it also goes to show you that those tax benefits that the city does to get people there, it's really, they shouldn't do that. They should just be more natural. And that really should be something else. And that's great.
The news is important. But if you're a busy real estate professional like me, you don't have time to skim through dozens of dry and ad-filled media outlets each day. That's why I read the CRE Daily. It's a free email newsletter that cuts through the clutter and delivers concise, witty commentary on the latest trends and transactions in commercial real estate. If you're a commercial real estate professional, you owe it to yourself to try it out and stay on top of what's happening in the industry. It's only 5 minutes a day. Visit credaily.com to sign up for free.
You haven't really seen anything like since the tax benefits. Like I know, I don't remember when they launched this, like maybe early 2000s or like mid 2010, something like this. But they had a tax benefit to get tech companies downtown. And I remember there were certain things you get like per employee, depending on how many employees you get.
$1,400 per employee,
right? Which is really enticing. Obviously, it had other issues, but I haven't seen anything like that program.
Well, they renewed the REAP recently, and that's to get folks from from Midtown down to downtown, or from out of New York to New York. And I think it's something that almost like a desperate thing to try to get these folks here. But if they don't want to be here, or downtown, then I think it should be something else.
And it's such a testament, right? Because Midtown has nothing like that. And it doesn't need anything like that.
No.
Like what we're seeing from 40th Street to 59th, from 3rd to 6th is like unheard of.
Right. The one thing though, people don't really focus on it enough. There really is a supply of better product issue out there. There's really not that much out there. If you're a group that's 100,000 square feet or something like that, there's hardly any buildings that you could look at in Midtown that are quality buildings or offer great amenities or whatever the case may be that tenants want to be in. So the way we're looking at it now is and there aren't really many folks that have been able to take older properties and make them into better properties. So we think we have this sort of unique aptitude.
Why are more groups not able to do that?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
I don't know. I don't understand it, but they haven't been able to. I think it's really they're not understanding that just like there are, some of the best hotels in the world are older hotels, and you embrace that heritage. They're not doing that on the older office buildings. We have. in a modern way. So everything inside needs to be new
Right.
elevators, new,
Right.
They just don't see the ROI as much. They don't see the upside as much as maybe
well,
they
and
could.
I think there's a real, they're scared that these older buildings are sort of dinosaurs, and
Yeah.
what are you going to find when you open up the wall and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. And there's merit to that. But we've now actually repositioned properties, office buildings from 1920s to 2010, and we actually thought the 2010, which is 545 Madison, was harder because
Why?
there was no
interesting.
soul. Like, there's nothing to feed off of.
I kind of like hearing this. I just feel like older properties, this goes to various property types, not just
Right.
office, just have more character. I also think older buildings tend to be built better.
Right.
I don't know that if you've noticed that as well.
I have actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not what people are thinking,
Sure.
but it's definitely true.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. What were you saying?
No, I mean, like at 10 Grand Central, I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't see a building that have those kind of, brick details that
Yeah.
are in there that you kind of embrace, and
Yeah.
just sort of the, we kept the original elevator doors that are beautiful.
That's so cool.
Like they're not protected, but I think they should be. They're beautiful.
People like that. People
Right.
like. You ever see like an old public library and then
Yeah.
a new public library and ask yourself, where did we go wrong?
Right.
Like, what happened here? I mean,
Yeah,
maybe it's
that's
because
true.
people don't use libraries anymore.
I think that's probably that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Well,
gonna start
okay.
seeing that with post offices.
So let's talk a little bit about policy, if we can, because you kind of mentioned it. We talked a little bit about it. What could the city do to improve policy when it comes to office building and attracting more businesses and tenants?
So for us, all we ask is that the streets be safe,
Yeah.
that they be clean, that they have beautiful, flowers and stuff like that. That's all we ask. We don't really want anything more than that. I think the rest is, talent wants to be here, and it should just make, New York as a hospitable place as possible. It's interesting in DC where we have some properties. We have this property that during COVID was in an area that was just disastrous.
Where is it in DC?
In Chinatown.
Okay.
So right by the main stadium there.
Yep.
And it used to be like a wonderful area, and then during COVID, people were being shot.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was all sorts of drug transactions
For a long time,
happening.
they were moving the capitals out of there.
Right.
And
So everything
yeah.
wrong was happening. And to the city's credit, and we met with the city, other folks met with the city, they really got it. And they actually had patrols constantly. They made it a drug-free zone. They beautified the area, invested $500 million into the area. And now folks actually say, I want to be
Really?
in this location.
Wow.
It's the first place I've actually seen that dramatic of an improvement, because you get really, what do you do? It's just, and you can't blame the tenant. Like, who would, want to be
course.
someplace that's not safe?
So would you say that is one of the main factors that keeps people from doing business in New York City, or is it the tax regulation? I mean, to me, safety is a big thing.
Yeah,
I feel like that must be.
It's the number one.
Yeah.
And if you look at, there's been studies on this. If you look at crime statistics and vacancy statistics, they're hand in hand.
Right.
So I know some folks seem to like the Penn Station area again. To me, it doesn't feel safe.
I go through there daily. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And you actually brought up something that I wanted to talk about. What's going on in Penn Station, what Vornado's doing, and nobody misconstrue this. This is
Right.
no attacks on Vornado.
Right.
They do a lot of great things.
Sure.
Not taking away. But they are probably the only company, I think, in New York right now that's placemaking. So it's very hard to placemake in New York. It takes tons of money.
For neighborhoods.
For a neighborhood, right? To like really transform a neighborhood. Even I think about even transforming a block between two avenues. A lot has to go into that. There's a lot of different owners, tons of different buildings, hundreds of millions of dollars has to get spent. So they're obviously doing it near Penn Station. They've been doing it for a long time, and they still have a really long way to go.
Right.
Do you see an opportunity for placemaking anywhere else in New York right now? Or do you think
That's a good question. Like, is there
anything's-
another
Yeah.
area that's underutilized or has a lot more potential?
I mean, well, the other area would be Hudson Yards, where they have done some of that. Whether you think it's done well or not is another question.
Is that for debate? I thought everyone agreed it has done incredibly well.
Well, it's leased up, but I think some folks feel that the fabric of Hudson Yards doesn't feel New York-ish.
It doesn't. It absolutely.
It's very disconnected.
Right.
Yeah. It's really disconnected.
And it will be interesting to see what happens 10 years from now when those leases are up, if those tenants still want to be there.
That is interesting.
Yeah, because I think tenants really would prefer to be in...
to have the character of the city and so forth. Well, I think, for those that don't know, I think Hudson Yards was the most expensive development in the history of this country, right? And it's brand new, shiny buildings, and there's a fancy Equinox, and the mall's really pretty and all this stuff, but it doesn't fit any of the character of the rest of the city.
Right. It doesn't have retail on the ground. It's all in the mall. And
so it feels like I'm in Dallas or Houston,
or Dubai.
Or Dubai. It feels very Dubai. That's
Craig, you have an understanding of the lay of the land of DC. When I think about Hudson Yards, I think of like the wharf.
Right.
And granted, the wharf's waterfront, whatever, but the wharf was really disconnected from the city. I mean, DC's very spread out. I think way more than New York, but
Hudson Yards is on the water too.
That actually, great point.
And you don't even think about it like that.
I don't think about it like that. That's really funny that you brought that up. I wonder why I can't even make that connection. But
they don't really take advantage of it.
But the wharf is. And it struggled for a while, but it's so successful now. And they just recapped it 2 weeks ago.
Hudson Yards, you have the train tracks right now that I know Related's going to be developing on, I believe. That kind of separates the water from the rest of it. So that could be part of it.
But Hudson Yards does have the High Line, and I think everyone loves the High Line, and I think they connected well to that.
But what's the contrast right now that we're getting between New York and what's making New York successful in its way versus... I don't even know what's happening in DC at this point. I mean,
so DC, so our buildings are also hospitality rich and distinctive. So they're better properties. But what we're seeing there is the lobbying groups, which are our tenants, are expanding, they're growing, and active. So this was actually our most active year we've had in DC in 5 years for sure. So that's what's happening on that front. We are also seeing some tech tenants, which we hadn't seen in DC. But what's nice about New York, and I think the difference is really New York has finance, which has been a great sector, and it has tech, and it has design and all this other kind of stuff. So it's a more broader tenant base. And in DC, with the government,
it's government.
Yeah,
it's government.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any government buildings, and we're always cognizant of that. But that's really the difference. They need one more industry. And you were talking about incentives in DC. I would actually think it would make sense for them to incentivize. Whether
to diversify.
AI type tenants, that stuff, which are actually in that market. And so many of these government sectors, do have cybersecurity and all that kind of stuff. And I think broadening that out and helping these tenants to be successful.
That's a good point.
I think makes sense.
That's a good point. Also, I don't want to shit on DC. DC is a great city, but I think it lacks a lot of character itself. I think just getting so much government related tenants. It's just like.
Are you saying people who work in government have
are a little lame
personality?
And a lot of lawyers too, right?
Yeah, that's true. A lot of lawyers.
So many lawyers.
So I think it would be really cool if it could diversify its tenant base a little bit more. Which to your point,
it also has a big real estate. Every real estate company, they're massive conglomerates in DC. It's REIT land.
And it was actually like the number one, real estate market for a long, long time. The DC also has all these new developments there too. So not just the wharf, but also Navy Yards, and all of those I think are done really well. They are good placemaking. And there was a need for them too.
What's another market outside of New York and DC that if you were to expand, that you would heavily consider?
So we were considering Austin.
Okay.
But this was like pre-COVID. And the reason we were considering it was, A, my daughter's in school there.
Yeah.
And then B, people want to be there. I think it's a great, vibrant city. But they just built. just way too much.
I know.
And so we were concerned about the supply back then, and you're still seeing some of that. So,
but you're still following it, and
we're still following
keep
it.
up with it.
Yeah, I mean, we look at Atlanta too. I've invested there in the past. Also, the same sort of issue. I mean, what we think though is if we can bring our New York sensibility, and not being like a New York snob about it, but like bring some of this real hospitality into those markets that haven't seen it. And when we did in DC, they hadn't seen it, and they love it, So I think if you can bring some of that there, I think it would do really well.
Sure. Are you in any other markets currently besides New York and DC?
Yeah, we're in 16 states actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
I didn't realize.
Way to do your homework, Alex.
Where were you on this check?
We also have a lot of retail too. So we own Cross County Center in New York. I don't know if you know it, but it's the nation's first open air shopping center, and that's super successful.
Whoa! I thought Highland Park Village in Dallas was the nation's.
So they said that there's a group in Ohio that says it, and a group in California.
So you're telling me all these groups say they are original open air shopping center, but you're the real
deal. We all
deal.
started around the same time.
That's so funny.
But ours is kind of a funny story. So the reason why we're an open air shopping center and successful as a result of it is our founder was a little too frugal to put a roof on
for the wrong reasons. But it worked out.
Great. Wow. Yeah, and we're actually expanding that Cross County Center too. So we're building a really beautiful park there and new retail, and making it just more vibrant as well. And we've been bringing hospitality. So as we were talking about in the beginning, with everything just converging, that's the way the world is.
Yeah,
and everybody wants those types of things.
Such a polar different asset class. Like what do you think right now is making retail successful? And you guys are doing shopping centers. Is there any other kind of retail in the portfolio right now? Like, do you guys own any high street retail or anything like that?
Yeah, we both.
So what do you think is lifting up that sector currently?
I mean, there too, it's also markets like Soho, which is on fire. So Ferrari's coming to one of our spaces there. I think the luxury market is just always does well. It's a
little recession resilient because the people who are shopping in these luxury markets are probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
And, Cross County, always does well, and we really can't figure it out. We try to know why that is. I think it's access is really easy. I think people really like to congregate. It's sort of again talking about people post COVID wanting to be together, and I think they really want to be together and bring their families and hang out in these outdoor beautiful spaces. So I think that's a big part of it. And then early on, I think it was a lot of excess money that went to a lot of folks, and they were just spending it. But that's kind of dissipated. So I'll be curious, but we're not seeing any slowdown in the consumer on our retail properties.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Is that something that you want to expand in the portfolio? Are you guys looking at more?
Yes.
Acquiring retail?
Yeah. So really it's office and retail are what we focus on. And then we do some multifamily if it sort of happens kind of in accordance with something we own, and we're rethinking about what it should be, but we're not actively doing
Is the topic of conversion anywhere in your portfolio right now? You don't have to say where if it is, but
no. So we are not doing conversion. We're converting bad buildings to better buildings, but office. But we think it's great that these folks are doing it.
Right.
It definitely helps.
It helps so much. Even on 3rd Avenue, all around us, everything's being converted. And those tenants need a place to go, and they want to stay nearby Grand Central, so that's helpful. And then when it is converted, there'll be new tenants and new retail and new restaurants. So I think it's great. I do think though, on the conversions that we've looked at, those layouts are tough, poor. More hallway than other space, not great windows. And I think right now there's such a supply issue in New York that it will do well, but we're long-term thinkers and holders, and I would be reluctant to buy something that when the market changes and there is more supply, no one's going to want to be in that building with a poor layout. So we're cognizant of that.
Yeah, of course. What about on the capital markets front right now? A question that we ask often is do you think there's still pain to come in the next year? we're no pain. We're already
I
on the
was
bright side.
just reading this morning, CRE Daily, how many maturities are coming up in the office space.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your take on that?
It's been like the fly that like looms over your ear, but we get to see action at scale, I think.
Right. I mean, we are looking at some stuff right now. So we hope to be buying a pretty large office building this year that's in a bad situation. And, we're starting to see more of those.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, the capital markets are tricky. I mean, there's a lot of unknown. I think in all of our underwriting, we're being very conservative just because you just don't know, but we are seeing really for the first time since COVID, we are seeing some LPs approaching us and saying, we want you to look at this with us. They're looking at something that's bringing us in.
So equity's coming back.
It's coming back, but it's not voluminous,
Yep.
but the groups that, that you would think of are getting it.
Okay.
And they're ready to come back. And we're concerned actually they're going to come back, all at once, and then it's going to be, we're going to miss the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But right now they're back, but they're not fully back. If
Got
that
it.
makes sense. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think LPs just have a way of lagging,
Right.
and also not being able to get out of their own way, and
Yeah.
they're
doesn't?
there when it's too late.
Well,
operators.
Well, it's interesting. So we actually underwrite pretty conservatively.
Yeah.
Like we really do. I know everyone says that, but we do. And we were like, why do we do this? Because whatever we do, they're going to like take a hit on
Of
us
course.
even more. And we're like, we can point to all this data and we're 20% less underwriting whatever we're doing, and like they will still hit it.
Yeah.
So, but we want to like outperform, and we'd much rather
Sure,
do that.
of course.
So you guys are definitely in buy mode.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are out hunting, which is exciting. I like hearing that in New York, because the amount of conversations Jack and I have where it's, no, I still wouldn't touch this. It's like, who's even in an office anymore? And I don't get it.
I don't get
feel
it
like,
either.
I feel like we're in two different worlds.
I was at a conference last week in Rhode Island, and all the office people were just like saying such horrible things. And I guess it's like that, but in New York, it's just not.
I also
Yeah.
think that negativity creates negativity.
Right.
And when you're around too much just pessimists, you're going to be pessimistic. And right now, office certainly seems like it's
And a
going
level
through
of
that.
ignorance. Like, it's just people who don't know or haven't seen, or
Yeah.
Right.
And if it's an easy narrative to say, all right, well, that's one building. Well,
Yeah.
okay, but it's one building happening like 50, 60 times.
Right.
Like,
I gotta
we're
say,
there.
in talking to you today, Craig, like I'm a big believer in office. Like I feel great about it. It sounds like there's so many opportunities. I really like what you're doing with the branding. I mean,
you.
it sounds like a place I wouldn't want to just work in, but maybe live in too. I don't know.
You
if
should
you're-
come by, honestly. Yeah. And we actually, a lot of people ask us if we could help them design their homes.
I believe that.
Yeah, so
That's
it's
awesome.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
It's an awesome feeling. Well, listen, it was great having you on.
Great to be
It was
here.
really interesting to hear what you're doing and what's going on in your portfolio. And, hopefully we get to continue this
Yeah,
conversation.
we'll have you on again after
After you have your closing of that office building, I want to talk again in like the next 6 months
Yeah.
and understand what's happening.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah, thanks,
This was
Craig.
great. Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.